This is CBC Vancouver News.
Fraser Health kind of gaslighted it to be way more than it actually is.
Residents of an assisted living facility in New Westminster claimed the health authority exaggerated the true cost of renovations to justify closing their space so the building could be sold.
I really don't understand why it's so hard to get 40 minutes exercise space for the 40 minutes exercise for those seniors.
The city of Vancouver says sorry after a group of Chinatown seniors are kicked out of a mall while practicing Tai Chi.
That whole idea of the world tour started not long after the accident, which was 50 years ago to the day.
And the man in motion looks back on the crash that changed his life half a century ago. Good evening, I'm Dan Burritt. Thanks for joining us. BC's largest health authority is facing a formal complaint over its announcement last summer to close an adult mental health assisted living centre in New Westminster. In February, after its residents went public with their fears, Fraser Health said Lina's place would not close after all. And as Belle Puri now tells us, family members believe it deliberately misled residents about its motives and caused unnecessary trauma.
A fear of separation troubled this tight-knit trio for the better part of a year.
I was suffering. My moods had gone down. My medication level went up.
The three live at Lina's place, a Fraser Health group home for adults with mental illness. Last July, they got word Lina's was closing.
We're all family. I thought I was going to lose my family and nobody would care.
Fraser Health said the closure is based on the need for a newer building and for funding for more choices in housing programs. To that end, residents say they were misled by senior health authority managers about the condition of their home.
Very, very deceptive. They gave us an opinion saying it needed all this work. $200,000, I think, was the number that was mentioned.
Details about the expensive but unspecified repairs were sketchy.
Fraser Health kind of gaslighted it to be way more than it actually is. And that put us all, that put stress on us.
Family members resorted to a Freedom of Information request.
We were looking for accountability.
The FOI revealed at most, Lina's place needed only $20,000 in minor repairs. A complaint to Fraser Health says residents were deliberately deceived.
There's a lot of people that spent a lot of time creating a lot of this mess that affected the 12 residents and staff and family members, and really didn't care. Whatever their agenda was, they didn't really care.
It's with the FOI that Fraser Health's story began to unravel. Internal emails showed in March of last year, Fraser Health wanted to rezone Lina's place for higher density. When it discovered it wouldn't be able to add any more than 3 new bedrooms, the subject line switched to Lina's closure. By May, they were talking about selling the duplex and investing the money elsewhere. A subsequent engineer's report showed no evidence of any alleged moisture or mold problems. Lina's place was supposed to close this Friday. Fraser Health recently rescinded that decision. In a statement to CBC, it says it regrets the impact of the last year's course of events.
I think Fraser Health has got this sort of hidden agenda to get rid of the Linas and basically create larger structures where they can more or less, warehouse residents.
Late this spring, Fraser Health shut down a White Rock assisted living group home. 13 residents with mental illness were forced to move. Residents of Lina's place are happy they won't have to go through that. But the months of unnecessary trauma, they say, have already taken a toll. They want a written apology from Fraser Health. Belle Puri, CBC News, New Westminster.
The city of Vancouver has now apologized after a group of low-income seniors was kicked out of a Chinatown shopping mall as they exercised last month. Organizers say it left some of them traumatized. Witnesses say just before 9 in the morning, May 26th, 50 or so Chinese-speaking seniors were about to start practicing Tai Chi at Chinatown Plaza Mall on Kiefer Street. It's owned by the city and managed by Easy Park. Exercise organizers with the Yarrow Society for Justice claim mall management asked them to leave and threatened to call police. They allege when the seniors decided to exercise anyway, mall staff tried to get close to them and stop them from moving. Witnesses also claim one staff member made discriminatory remarks.
Things like, this is not Hong Kong, this is not China, this is Vancouver. And the senior actually, some of the senior can understand some basic English, so they just respond that we're Canadians too.
Police say a mall worker did flag down a nearby officer who told them they had concerns about the group gathering there without permission, and it took about 3 minutes for the seniors to leave. In a statement, the city says it sincerely apologizes for the way the situation was handled and that it contacted Yarrow in early June about what happened. It says it cannot verify if culturally insensitive comments were made, but the city does not tolerate racism of any kind. Cow says calling police was extreme, noting the seniors are 75 to 95 years old. The Euro Society is asking the city to allow the seniors to use the space, arguing there's no other suitable location. The city notes it has not granted the society permission and is checking the impact on tenants and liability. Western premiers met in Whistler today to discuss some big issues, among them asking for more cash from Ottawa. And as Mira Baines reports, there is a shift toward boosting the economy.
As Ottawa prepares the federal budget for next year, Western premiers meeting here are pushing for more federal funding. Premiers say population growth has shifted west, and today's meeting is about putting up a united front to make sure the West gets its fair share of dollars compared to the East.
We see the weight of population growth shifting, the weight of the country to the West.
The big ask is for help with infrastructure costs related to climate disasters and improving trade corridors. They say costs associated with building back after devastating wildfires and floods are going up as interest rates and supply chain costs creep higher. With more people heading west, Western premiers want more money for improved roads, ports, airports, and telecommunications.
We discussed strengthening our strategic infrastructure and trade corridors, finding ways to get our goods to market efficiently and effectively, to grow our provinces and territories' economies, but also our national economy.
And ensuring that we are being proud of not only what we're producing in Canada from coast to coast to coast, but how we are producing those products.
Other priorities include labor market needs, immigration, climate change, and the shift towards clean energy. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith made her province's stance clear.
We are not transitioning away from hydrocarbons. We are not transitioning away from oil and natural gas. We're transitioning away from emissions.
There was also concern around violent crime and federal bail reform legislation aimed at repeat offenders that wasn't passed. Premiers are pushing the federal government to pass that bill in the fall. The big question is always, will any of this lead to change? Premiers from across Canada will be meeting next month in Winnipeg. Mira Baines, CBC News, Whistler.
The provincial government says everyone living at a controversial encampment in Abbotsford have now moved on. For years, this empty lot near Highway 1 has been home to about 30 people at its peak. But police say there have been reports of violence and increased calls to 911. Earlier this month, the province set a deadline for the site to be cleared. It says housing options were available for all the people there, and a number have accepted shelter spots or rent supplements. Cleanup and removing abandoned vehicles starts tomorrow. Animal advocates are releasing a list of the deadliest communities in BC for black bears to live. They hope it will encourage people in cities and towns to better live alongside and with wild animals and prevent more deaths. The Fur Bearers got the data from the BC government. It shows where black bears were killed most by conservation officers. Of the nearly 400 communities, Prince George was the deadliest with 32, followed by Nelson and then Castlegar. Advocates say black bears are often killed when they start to head into communities looking for unnatural food sources like garbage.
We do want local governments, such as municipalities and regional districts, to examine their current policies and see what can be done to improve them. So wildlife is typically seen as a provincial responsibility, but waste management, attractant management is done at the local level.
The group encourages people to contact their elected officials about the number of bears being killed near them. As our weather once again turns hotter, BC's health minister says the government is set to provide up to 8,000 air conditioning units to vulnerable people for free. This comes after the recommendations from the death review panel that looked into the blistering heat dome of 2021 when 619 people were killed. The panel found most of those who died were low-income and vulnerable people 60 years and older. BC Hydro will help distribute $10 million to pay for the ACs.
And people will be able to apply through BC Hydro to be considered for free air conditioning units under the program. In addition, health authorities will work with their home health teams to identify community-based vulnerable clients and assist them in working with BC Hydro to gain access to free air conditioning units.
Hydro says it will also offer all customers $50 off the purchase of a qualified energy-saving air conditioning unit. To the BC-Alberta border now, where one of this province's most acclaimed backcountry hiking trails has partially reopened. BC Park says the Berg Lake Trail in Mount Robson Park has reopened between the trailhead and Kinney Lake Campground. It was closed during the province's record-breaking heat wave in 2021 due to flood damage from melting ice and snow. The first 7 kilometers of the trail up to Kinney Lake Campground have been repaired, and it's now open for day hikes and overnight stays. The trail is being repaired in 3 phases, with a full reopening expected in 2025. The Sea to Sky Highway has reopened southbound after it was closed in both directions yesterday because of a nearby grass fire. The BC Wildfire Service says the blaze is currently burning about half a kilometre from Horseshoe Bay Ferry Terminal. It's not clear how it was sparked, but West Vancouver fire crews say it is most likely caused by people because of its proximity to the road. Rick Hansen, the man in motion, is returning to Williams Lake, his hometown. It has been 50 years since a crash that changed his life. Hansen was just 15 when he and his friend hitched a ride on the back of a pickup truck heading to a stampede. The driver lost control, though, and hit a tree. Hansen was ejected and became paralyzed from the waist down. But he says this many years later, he's looking back with a sense of gratitude.
Well, when I look back, that whole idea of the world tour started not long after the accident, which was 50 years ago to the day, and thinking about how bleak seems to be and trying to rebuild a new life, try to think about adventures and ideas that seemed impossible, like maybe wheeling around the world in a wheelchair instead of bicycling. And then years later, it became a mission to make a difference. And here we are looking back to the origins, going back to that accident site when me and my buddy Don Alder were hitchhiking back from a fishing trip, and we got a ride in the back of the truck that ended up crashing. And that's how my spine was broken and my spinal cord was damaged. And if that hadn't have happened, this life that I've led would have never happened. And ultimately, I look back with sense of gratitude, and I wouldn't trade it for the use of my legs.
As grocery prices keep climbing, British Columbians are getting creative to handle the spike in costs. That story when we come back. Stay with us. Thanks for joining us on our commercial-free live stream tonight. For the first time in the city's history, Burnaby has proclaimed June Philippine Heritage Month. Over the weekend, more than 1,000 people, including the Premier, turned up to mark the 125th anniversary of Philippine independence. As Janella Hamilton shows us, it was also a chance for the community to weigh in on the highly anticipated Filipino Cultural Center.
From a cultural parade to traditional Filipino music and dancing. William Canero says the large turnout at Burnaby's Pinoy Festival illustrates the need for a dedicated space for BC's rapidly growing Filipino population.
By the last census, 75% of us weren't born in this country. Those are newcomers who have different needs than the rest of Canada.
One way to meet those needs is through a Filipino Cultural Center, a development the community has been urging the province to build for the past 50 years. 6 months ago, Premier David Eby instructed BC's Tourism, Arts and Culture Minister to prioritize the project, a glimmer of hope for those who fear the redevelopment of Vancouver's Joyce Collingwood neighborhood could threaten an important cluster of cultural spaces.
These restaurants, these businesses have acted as those cultural centers. There are languages, various Filipino languages spoken in these centers, in these restaurants, and that's rare.
Donning a traditional Filipino outfit, Eby reaffirmed his promise to build a provincial cultural center.
I know how important it is for this community to get together and celebrate, how important it is for this community to have a cultural center.
More than 30 Filipino organizations are at this year's festival, honoring heritage and celebrating diversity.
It's a source of pride that we are seen, that we are honored, that we are we are part of the community.
Alan Fernandez says Filipinos have a long history in BC dating back to the 1880s, and that history needs to be preserved.
I want to show my children what rich culture they have from their nationality. They might be Canadian citizens, but they shouldn't lose the fact that they're still Filipino nationals.
Affordable Tagalog classes, maybe free Tagalog classes.
Over the summer, the public can weigh in on plans for the center. For Canero, it's one step closer to making a decades-long dream a reality. Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Burnaby.
If you've been shopping recently and looked at your grocery bill, you know the cost of food just keeps rising and rising. And a months-long investigation is showing a big part of it is the lack of competition in Canada. Right now, only 5 big players sell groceries across this country. And Canada's Competition Bureau says that may have to change. But as Nisha Patel reports, that may not be easy.
At grocery stores across the country, sticker shock is the new normal.
Not as competitive as they could be.
Everybody's copying each other. These guys have the same price as Safeway, the same price as Save on the same price.
The Competition Bureau spent months looking into rising prices and found rising profits.
If we see an industry with rising margins over time, it can certainly be a sign that there's a need for more competition in the industry.
Just a few of the recommendations to help keep food prices down. New labeling rules that make it easier to comparison shop, and encouraging the growth of independent grocers and those who do business online.
The chains don't need handouts. It's the independent grocers in those myriad communities that need the help.
My mission, which I have chosen to accept, is to get all of my favorites from Aldi.
The Bureau also suggests the industry could use a shakeup by attracting international retailers.
Certainly the Canadian grocery industry welcomes that. They've welcomed it, in the past with the entries of Costco and Walmart.
It may seem like there's a lot of places to shop in Canada, but all these stores are owned by just 3 big companies: Loblaws, Sobeys, and Metro. Add in Costco and Walmart, and those major players dominate 80% of the market.
We have less choice in groceries than we did 30 years ago, and those grocers' profits have been rising steadily.
Many industry watchers say the report is a good first step, but also suggest Canada needs stronger merger laws.
Waves of consolidation that we've allowed to happen have really reduced the diversity and dynamism of the markets.
All ideas that would take months, even years to implement. Little comfort for those shoppers feeling the bite of higher prices.
Nisha Patel reporting tonight. So as these grocery prices keep climbing, British Columbians say it's becoming harder to keep up. Zara Premji is looking at how some people have gotten very creative to handle the spike in prices.
Whether it's buying produce or shopping for the family, the cost of it all is becoming overwhelming.
They are way too expensive now.
Buying bulk used to be the cheaper option, but it's no longer the answer to cut costs, according to these shoppers, who say local shops are the way to go. A bunch of celery now $5 at some grocery giants, $2.99 at this local shop.
And I do shop around, I do compare.
I try every place. Try so many places.
Sage advice from frequent shoppers who say creativity has had to kick in.
When we first moved to Canada, he flyer shopped, and whatever was on sale that week, that's what we ate. And you have to, and I think we're back in those times again.
We track down our expensive and try to go different places wherever we get cheap.
The impact rippling through families, households, and businesses too.
I own a pizza shop down in Maple Ridge, and we see prices go up like every day, and it's getting hard to go by.
Despite his cost-saving measures, he's had to pick up a second job.
Eventually we have to work extra, so I'm doing Uber part-time now to cover the expenses.
So how can the local one-offs keep the prices low?
We don't have it's overhead, like only one manager, one supervisor, like this is a family business.
And they say if they help their community, they find the community returns the favor.
The customers, they appreciate the lower price, and people usually buy more if we have it at a cheaper price, so they buy more, like instead of maybe one at Superstore, maybe two here or something like that.
And they say they'll keep it that way so the consumer isn't bearing the burden of outside costs.
We have a lot of customer, then we are very happy. Customer happy, then everybody happy.
Now shoppers say if you just can't figure out where to get your groceries, perhaps go through the flyers, check out the aisles and see what meets your budget. Zara Premji, CBC News, Surrey.
There's a live shot of Cambie Street and City Hall in the background. Another warm, sunny day on the south coast, and that trend is going to continue. Johanna Wagstaff will have your BC-wide forecast and a special announcement. Stick around.
Fast ferries, which are aluminum-hulled, car-carrying catamarans that travel at 40 knots, are the ferries of the future.
Workers at Vancouver shipyards gather in North Vancouver with the hope that new ferry contracts could secure future employment for an ailing industry.
It means a new technology and a new shipbuilding industry in British Columbia. British Columbia shipbuilders, as David mentioned, have been screwed consistently by the federal government. We have received not a penny in work from the federal government, even though we're one of the few provinces paying into Confederation now.
New high-speed catamaran aluminum ferries travel twice as fast and will cut the traveling time between West Vancouver and Nanaimo nearly in half. The government says these ferries could start a new local industry.
When we build those 3 ships here, which will take several years in British Columbia, put them on these routes which save time and save money for BC Ferries, it also means that those yards that are now have an expertise in world-class technology and building these very large aluminum vessels will be able to compete around the world for this new technology and this new growth in ferry service. And I think that means a much more secure future for shipyard workers in British Columbia because of this announcement.
It's good to hear that they're actually going to do something for the industry. Which yards get it and how much gets spread around is a question to be seen.
So it's always good news, sir. Something like this.
Build BC ships at home?
For sure. And build a new industry where we're going somewhere. Some new technology. That's where it's at.
But the program to replace the aging BC ferry fleet is not without its critics. Reform leader Jack Weisgerber says this untried technology will result in more debt and increase fares for users. Alan Edwards, CBC News, North Vancouver.
Land Back is a CBC original podcast where we uncover land theft in Canada and look at how Indigenous people are taking it all back. Land Back is out now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
CBC Vancouver is the premier media partner of the 2023 Surrey Fusion Festival, July 22nd and 23rd. Visit the festive cultural pavilions, enjoy free live music and family activities. And the 13th annual Indian Summer Festival takes place July 6th to the 16th. The festival's powerful 10-event lineup speaks to the theme of interdependence. Tickets at indiansummerfest.ca.
Some people spend years dreaming up the perfect tattoo. Others, though, embrace the thrill of being surprised. Observe.
I just really like them. Since I was a little kid, I love getting like drawing on myself and making tattoos.
A shop in San Francisco is offering clients a new way to pick up their next design. You roll the gumball dice, and whatever comes out, that's your tattoo. Fans say it's like letting the universe decide for you. This gumball tattoo roulette is popular with people who already have some ink. And if you don't like it, you can always get another gumball and cover it up. Lego fans in Alberta, meanwhile, have proven once again it is amazing what a toy can do. Take a look. It took nearly 1 million Lego bricks to recreate several landmarks in downtown Edmonton. It started as a pandemic project. Creators call it a labor of love. They hope to inspire others to build their own one-of-a-kind cityscapes. Pretty cool.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace, installing the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
Time for our BC-wide weather forecast with meteorologist Johanna Wagstaff. And Joe, you're keeping some eye on some thunderstorms across our big province.
Yes, another evening, another round of thunderstorms across the interior of the province. It seems like we have this ridge building in that we know is bringing the warmer, drier weather, but these storms keep popping up. Let me show you what they look like. Setting this back to the early evening hours, and you can see all of those lightning strikes across the southeast. Now, this is lining up where we do have lower fire danger at the moment. The province is sort of split in half as far as where our highest fire danger is. But as we know, not all of the moisture that's coming with the lightning strikes really getting down into the soil where we need it. So just be on alert for any of those storms to push severe limits in the next few hours. We do have another chance for them again tomorrow afternoon before this high pressure finally wins out. But this is really telling our fire weather story. It's also telling our current moisture situation. This is the fire danger rating map for today. In the northwest, you can see high to extreme building once again, especially across the south coast. But hanging on to whatever moisture we can get out of those showers for a couple more days. And a new system will bring some more moisture to the northwest. But as you can see, really starting Friday, things start to dry out across the province as the high pressure wins out. So temperatures will be climbing in the long range. We're back into the low 30s by the time we hit the weekend and beyond. We're actually talking mid 30s for much of the province. So this is just the start of that slow climb. Look for a few scattered thunderstorms tomorrow afternoon, Prince George up towards the Peace and the Kootenays, but less of a chance towards the Okanagan. So all in all, a warm and dry forecast that'll take us through our long weekend, Dan. And after that, you're on your own because
what are you talking about?
This is my last day with you before I've been working on a big project. It's a new baby.
So the rumors were true. Johanna, we had to tell everyone you've been a payload specialist, which is not far from the truth, in fact. So it's not an Artemis mission. It's a whole new human life, Joe. We're so happy for you. Amazing. It's a whole new moon mission. And to Wesley and to Rodney and to Tristan and the whole family, awesome news.
You, Dan.
We're so happy for you. You're going to have a great time. Health and happiness and love to the whole family. We'll see you soon. That
means a lot. And thank you for telling everyone as a payload. Dan actually did do that when people called in asking about the bump. So I owe you one. Thanks,
No
Dan.
problem, pal. Take care. And that is your late news for Tuesday. Thank you for joining us tonight. For news anytime, check our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30. I will be away for a few weeks, so happy Canada Day to you all. Take care. Good night.